Describe how to install and test a photoelectric sensor. A photoelectric proximity sensor can be installed by mounting the sensor and wiring its leads to a control device such as a PLC. A photoelectric sensor is often mounted with a bracket or plate and oriented so that it is pointed toward the target location. Photoelectric sensors are available in both rectangular bodies that are mounted to a bracket as well as threaded bodies that are inserted into a mounting hole. Opposed sensing applications require the mounting of a separate transmitter and receiver. The sensor is pointed toward the target when using a proximity application. The transmitter and receiver are pointed directly at each other for an opposed sensor application. The sensor brackets should provide slots or hinge points to aid in aligning the sensor. A photoelectric sensor may provide either 2, 3, or 4 wires for connecting the sensor to the circuit. 2-wire sensors are usually connected from one side of a power supply, typically 24 volts DC, directly to the controller input. Three-wire sensors provide 2 wires for connection to a power supply and a 3rd wire to provide a signal to a control device. Four-wire sensors usually provide 2 wires for connection to the power supply, as well as 2 wires that provide both normally open and normally closed sensor outputs. The user chooses which of the outputs to connect to the controller depending on the application. The remaining wire may simply be connected to an unused terminal block or capped using a wire nut and black tape. Some 4-wire devices allow the remaining wire to be connected to a second controller. Opposed sensor applications require separate wiring for the transmitter power for all 3 sensor styles. To test the sensor, it must be actuated, preferably by using the actual target to be sensed during normal operation. Any object big enough to break the beam may alternately be used to trip an opposed sensor, while a reflective object is required to trip a proximity sensor. Many photoelectric sensors have an indicator light that illuminates when a target is detected to help verify the operation of the sensor. Because the sensor operates like a switch, test it by measuring its input and output. If the sensor light illuminates, the problem is more likely on the output side, so test it first. To test the output, measure the voltage at the sensor and at the controller input. Doing so verifies that the sensor output is good and that voltage is reaching the controller input. To test the input, measure the voltage at the power supply and at the sensor. If the input voltage is missing, the problem is not with the sensor. If the input voltage is present, but the output voltage is not, the sensor is bad, open, or the load is shorted. If the output voltage is correct, but the load is not working, the load is open.